Hello and welcome to a brand new fantasy football video on the channel. This is the third of 5 videos that I'll be bringing out guiding you through the upcoming 2022-2023 Premier League fantasy football season. And today, as part of that series, we're going to be talking about defenders. The structure of the video is going to be pretty simple today. We're going to be looking at 3 different price ranges in FPL defenders. That's going to be premium, mid-range and your cheaper options, and I'm going to be recommending a few options from each area for your FPL teams. So without further ado, let's get straight into those premium options. Now this season has followed a pretty similar pattern to what we've seen in the last few, where the premium defenders are very few and far between. By that, I mean they're from the 2 big teams in the league, in Liverpool and Man City, and then a couple of players chucked in there elsewhere, such as from Chelsea, from defenders who scored well on the attacking side of the game last season. However, while picking my list of the players I recommended for this section in the premium area of the market, I found it actually quite easy to find a few standout players that you should be picking in your teams this season. The first player in this premium section, and I'm sure it's no surprise to you at home, is Trent Alexander-Arnold. He's coming in this season at 7.5 million and he's the most expensive defender in the game, but he is for a reason. Last season he contributed 14 goals and assists in the league, and he was bang on his expected goals and assists for last season also. Trent is a real attacking menace. He is able to fly up that right wing, getting cover from the midfielders and put really dangerous balls into the box that are usually finished off by the attackers. However, what Trent also has to his game is that set piece delivery. He takes the vast majority of free kicks and also a few corners here and there. So not only is Trent an issue going forward, but he's also in the second best defence in the entire league. So he's very prone to picking up a clean sheet and maybe even also assist that sees him get all of the bonus points as well. So for that reason, Trent is a really easy pick and should definitely be in your team. If we look at the other expensive premium options at 7 million this season, we have Cancelo and we also have Robertson. Now, these players are a bit tricky to separate and pick between. Robertson had really good underlying numbers last season, or I should say raw numbers. He got 11 assists in the league, however he did overperform. His expected assist tally should have been more around 6 to 7, so I wouldn't guarantee that output again from him this season. However, similar issues do arise when we look at Cancelo. In terms of his assists last season, he also picked up 11. However, his expected figures show him closer to being 6. And that's because Cancelo got some quite weird assists last season. He got a few assists for handballs and also penalties, which don't register other than in fantasy football. However, with the way that he pushes up forward and also pulls inside into the midfield, I think he's still a fantastic option this season, and he should also be in your team. And the simple reason being is that Man City have a fantastic defence. They had an expected goals conceded number last season of 26 goals. 26. That is a goal every 2/3 of a game. It's absolutely phenomenal. So despite being a whole 1 million higher than any other Man City defensive option, I still think Cancelo is an absolute must for your team this season. Now, finding another player to pick wasn't that easy. Obviously, the standout players that you think would be in the premium section would be the Chelsea defenders in Chilwell and James. However, I don't have so much confidence in their output this season, especially at the start of the season. Tuchel and Chelsea have been a little bit hit and miss in pre-season, and they haven't looked too strong defensively. As well as that, they've been playing at 4-back with Reece James often playing as the right centre-back, meaning his attacking output is likely to be reduced quite sizably. Additionally, it looks like Marc Cucurella may also be signing from Brighton as they steal that deal away from Man City, and if they do stick to the 4-back formation, then Cucurella is likely to take a lot of minutes off Ben Chilwell this season, also resulting in him not picking up anywhere near the attacking returns that we may expect. Therefore, with their output both looking like it could reduce this season, my third choice for a premium defender is actually going to be Ruben Diaz. Again, he is in the strongest defence in the league, conceding, as we said, only 26 expected goals last season, and he's also good for an attacking output. That's not just goals. He cropped up for 5 assists last season when he was up from corners. He's a good, dangerous player, and he's good in the box. On top of that, despite Pep and his mental rotation that we usually see, Ruben Diaz is the most guaranteed player in that defence, and for 6 million, could actually be a bargain this season. So that's my 3 premium options: Trent Alexander-Arnold, Cancelo, and Ruben Diaz. I wouldn't even blame most people with especially the power curve we've seen in FPL over the last season or so. If you've not heard me talk about the power curve, go check out my FPL guide video. Link will be in the description. They are all really good assets for this season, and I think you could possibly get away with having all 3 as long as you didn't want the attackers also from those teams. Okay, now we're going to look at the mid-range options, and these I feel are usually the neglected options by most people's teams. I think people either go one of 2 ways, especially this season, and you either go for a really, really strong defense in terms of having a lot of the premium defenders that we just spoke about, or you end up having more of the cheaper defenders, which we'll get onto later in the video. And I also actually struggle to find good options in this mid-range area between 5 to 5.5 million. However, there were a few standouts. Those standout players actually all come from the same team, and it might surprise you, it's Tottenham. By expected goals conceded last season, Spurs had the 5th best defence in the league, and in real terms they were actually 4th, as Crystal Palace were the team that split them. However, despite having such a resolute defence and the addition to Conte to the team, the defenders are actually coming in quite cheap. Now, you can't get a regular in that defence for less than 5 million, but the 5 million options are actually quite good. You have both Eric Dyer and Christian Romero, which, when fit, are absolute guarantees to be in this first team. Now, not only will they be good in terms of being able to keep clean sheets, especially with Conte at the helm, we've seen him put up very resolute defences in the past, both at Chelsea and Inter Milan, but I think they could also both be good for a goal. They both have contributed to goals last season, whilst not hitting the numbers that you'd really want for a defender if you're going to pick them in your FPL team. I think there's potential there for them to improve, especially from set piece delivery. And a big part of that set piece delivery could be the final option, which is Ivan Perisic. Now, he's coming into the league having got 15 goals and assists in Inter Milan's campaign last season, and he was almost bang on his expected goals and assist number as well, posting a total of 14, only 1 less than his actual figure. Now, you can expect him to play in a very similar role to how he did last season at Inter Milan. He will be bombing up that left wing, being able to cut in on his right foot and take a few pot shots at goal, and expect a few of them to go in as they did last season too. He's going to have the freedom to roam on that left-hand side. Heung-min Son, who usually occupies that position, plays very centrally and usually locks onto the balls in behind from Kane. Whereas on the right-hand side, where we're likely to see someone like Emerson or Doherty, Kulusevski drops a lot deeper and actually takes away that attacking space that may otherwise be available for that side of the pitch. Therefore, I fully expect Perisic to be the player that bombs on forward far more often than whoever ends up playing right wing back, and therefore he will get a lot of chances to be in and around the penalty area and pick up those valuable goals and assists that we want to see from our defensive assets. Therefore, coming in at 5.5 million, I think he's also a fantastic pick alongside Dyer and Romero, who both come in at 5. The final player to look at in this mid-range area is Kieran Tierney. No, it isn't. The final player that we're going to look at in this mid-range area is Kieran Trippier. Now, he also comes in at 5 million this season, despite playing very few minutes in the league last season after he scored a couple of his goals because he got injured. However, like Trent, he has a big bonus in his game, and that's that he is on set pieces. This means that Trippier will be a goal threat in every single game that Newcastle play, as they're always likely to have at least a few corners and free kicks. However, the big drawback that we have with Trippier is Newcastle's defence. Now, they have improved with the additions of Pope and Botman, who I think are both very good signings. However, last season, they finished as the 6th worst team for expected goals conceded, and Eddie Howe has a very famous record of not being able to coach a well-drilled defence, as we saw many times when he was the manager of Bournemouth previously several years ago. However, if Newcastle do progress this season and they do become more defensively sound with their very good additions, you could definitely see Trippier being one of the top scorers in FPL for defenders this season. So there we have it, that's my mid-range options. I would recommend Perisic, Dyer, Romero and Trippier. I think they'd be all very good additions for your FPL teams this season. Okay, and now we move into the final section of the video, and that is the cheaper options. These are your options either at 4 million or 4.5 million. And there's no place better to start, I feel, than Arsenal. Last season, Arsenal were the 7th best team for expected goals conceded in the league, but what they were especially good at is closing out 1-0 and 2-0 victories against teams in the bottom half of the table. Now this makes these defenders at Arsenal very reliable in terms of FPL because they have that consistency and predictability of when they're most likely to be able to keep a clean sheet. However, that's not their only advantage this season. Due to a few of their players coming in at 4.5 million, you could even rotate them in and out when they have bad fixtures, rather than in the past you'd have to stick with them no matter what due to their price, usually being around 5.5 million for an Arsenal defender. So the players that we're going to consider in Arsenal's defence are Tomiyasu, Ben White and Saliba. Well, last season Ben White played almost every single game in the league for Arsenal, and he looked pretty good in the majority of them. In addition to that, Tomiyasu, playing on the right back position, also played almost every single game that he was fit for. However, he did miss a lot this season due to injury. However, my pick from the Arsenal defence would actually be William Saliba. Now, Saliba spent the season last year at Marseille on loan, and he picked up Young Player of the Season in the process. Now, what won him the award last season was his ability on the ball. He ranked in the top 3% of all defenders in Europe's top 5 leagues for progressive passes, passes completed, progressive carries, and dribbles completed. So he was driving out of that defence and passing straight through the lines to create chances for his teammates. And it's pretty clear looking at Arsenal's pre-season that Arteta has a lot of faith in Saliba as well, often playing him as the right of the central 2 centre-backs next to Gabriel, as Ben White is being pushed out to right back in Tomiyasu's absence in pre-season. Therefore, my choice in that Arsenal defence would be Saliba. I think he's going to be far more defensively sound than the options that they currently have, and that could lead to bonus points down the line. Now, the next team we're going to be talking about is Crystal Palace, and I've probably spoken about Palace in every single video I've made so far and how resolute their defence was last season, but it really was. In terms of their expected goals conceded, they ranked 4th. That's right, 4th in the entire league. The partnership of Mark Guehi and Joachim Andersen has become a real stalwart at Selhurst Park, and with the new addition of Chris Richards coming in at right back from Bayern Munich and the defensive juggernaut on the left hand side of Mitchell, Palace's defence is only likely to get stronger as the years progress. Therefore, if Crystal Palace can repeat anywhere near the level of season they had defensively last season, any defender in that back line at 4.5 million is going to be a good option. However, I think the two standout picks are definitely Guehi and Andersen. They both picked up some attacking output last season as well, with Andersen getting 4 assists, in addition to Guehi getting 2 goals in the league. I think it really is a toss-up between the two. I think they're pretty much both irreplaceable in the team at this point, and I think it'll just depend on who you prefer as a player. In fact, I actually wouldn't blame people doubling up on these two players due to how reliable Palace were last season. However, I wouldn't actually recommend doing that straight away, as Crystal Palace have quite a tough start to the season, playing Arsenal, Man City and Liverpool in their first 4 games, with the latter 2 being away fixtures where you really wouldn't expect Palace to be able to get any points. Another quite under the radar option that could be available this season is actually at Manchester United, and it's Diego Dalot. He's been playing at the right back position under Ten Hag in almost every pre-season game, and he really looks to have superseded Wan-Bissaka on that side. Now, his stats last season in quite limited minutes weren't all that impressive. However, he was awesome in his loan campaign a couple seasons ago at Milan that saw them really compete for the league title. Therefore, if Dalot can keep his space in that Manchester United team, he could prove to be an invaluable asset both for attacking returns but also defensive solidity, which I'm sure we all expect to happen under Ten Hag this season. Now, the last player we're going to be looking at in the 4.5 category is a player that is owned by less than 2% of people at the time of recording. However, in the last 2 seasons has actually recorded 13 assists in the league. Now, don't cheat. If you pause the video right now, I bet you can't guess within 10 seconds who that player is. And I'm sure to everyone's surprise who did just pause the video, it's actually Kufal. Now, Kufal was actually injured for a large part of last season, missing around 1,000 minutes. However, when he was on the pitch, he was still able to contribute 4 assists. Now, West Ham are going to be looking to solidify their place in the table this season, and under a very reliable manager in David Moyes, I fully expect them to be able to do that. They've been able to make the right additions to their team, added the much needed depth at centre-back, whilst also bringing a striker that really could fire them to the next level this season. So with Kufal coming back into that West Ham team this season, I would not be surprised at all to see him flying up the right wing and putting on a lot of assists as he did 2 years ago, where he managed 9. So just to reiterate, coming in at 4.5 million, which is 0.5 cheaper than he was last season, Kufal could be a real steal this season. And then finally, the player you were all expecting, the man that will save many people's teams this season and be an absolute star in the World Cup in November. It is my compatriot Nico Williams. And the logic behind this is very, very simple. He was priced at 4 million whilst he was still playing at Liverpool. We've seen defenders already be bought by Nottingham Forest post that date of the game starting, coming in at 4.5. In fact, no defender that they've bought that we expect to start has come in at 4 million. They've all been 4.5 or higher. Therefore, picking Nico Williams is an absolute no-brainer. This is the guy that is either going to be playing left wing back or right wing back. He has fantastic versatility on both sides of the pitch, and catch what I said there, wing back. Steve Cooper likes to deploy a 5-back formation and a 3-back when they're attacking, so you can very much expect Nico Williams to be bombing up the side of the pitch and potentially even laying on assists. Therefore, without a shadow of a doubt, Nico Williams is the best priced for value defender in FPL this season, and 30% of managers agree with me. So overall, my defensive picks for the cheaper options in FPL this season are Saliba, Kufal, Mark Guehi, and of course, Nico Williams. And that's it, we've come to the end of the video. Now I hope you enjoyed today's video and you're enjoying this series so far. If you are, drop a like and subscribe down below and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the uploads of the midfielders and attackers that will be done before the start of game week 1 on Friday. Finally, if you want to follow me on socials, my Twitter will be down in the description. It's at mturnbull78. And if you like what you see, you like today's t-shirt, and this is a first on the channel, you like the one behind me, which is the Wales 2015 home shirt that they qualified for the Euros in, then that shirt is actually available on my Depop. Again, link will be down below, and it's at mturnbull78. Thank you all for watching the video and supporting the channel today, and I will see you very soon.